Hello, folks, and welcome to another live cardboard. This is number 4. Shelves of shame, shelves of opportunity. We'll see where it goes. Thanks to all who've made it out here tonight. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. And if you're new, thanks for checking us out. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. This is all still new to me. So whatever you do that can help it out, please do it. And if you really like it, you can become a patron of the podcast and the channel through Ko-Fi. There's a link in the video description, along with links to my Noble Knight and Cube for Me affiliates. And I want to say a special thank you to Dan Cochran for being the latest Ko-Fi patron. Much appreciated, Dan. So tonight we're going to talk about shelves of shame or shelves of opportunity, whichever depends. I guess it depends if you're an optimist or a pessimist. I don't know. But I want to talk about not just what's on them, but how games get there, how long they stay, and how hard it is to get one off once it's been there for a while. But I just want to check one thing first. And let's see. Oh, just had a little feedback there. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Well, before we get to the topic, let's just do the news. I've got just a few items here today that I want to talk about. So let's get right at it. The first one is Cube for Me has come out with these new ultra thin counter trays. They're basically one counter thick. So it's not, you don't put a whole pile in, you put in, as you look on that picture there, you put in single counters all across. They come in, I think they come in like 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. And they're just like, they're super shallow. You can sort of see it there, how they all stack up on one another. I think they'd be great for games where there's a lot of different counters and not a lot that want to go together. I mean, they're not going to be great for games where you have 30 of the same counter. But for games with a lot of different counters, I think they're kind of an interesting new twist on counter trays. I'm going to give them a shot. Anyway, that's Cube for Me. I also got a notice that A Most Fearful Sacrifice is getting yet another reprint. So this is its 4th printing. Herman Lutman, this has got to be one of his most successful games. I don't know that any of the Blind Swords games that he originally published, that he originally designed, have got this many reprints. So good for him, because that's not just a reprint of an average size game. That's a big box. Those are expensive. So I hope he's making a good buck on them. Weekend at the Warehouse is coming up in April. I'll be missing it this spring for the first time in 4 years, which is a total bummer. But if you're going, watch it. Look out for this guy's list. He's got an excellent geek list on Board Game Geek, where you can just post a game that you want to play, and somebody will respond and say, "Hey, I want to play that too." You set up a time and away you go. So, I'm sad to miss it, but I'm still checking that geek list because I like looking at what everybody's planning on playing. I think it's going to be a fun time. Hey, Jonathan from South Australia. Wow, what time is it there then? Or is it early in the morning there? It must be. So, I'm glad to have somebody from so far away. Good to see you. I wanted to mention War Games to Go. Some of you might know Mark Johnson from War Games to Go. He has that podcast going for about 12 years, but he's got another one called Board Games to Go, where he kind of tackles the same thing. He's into any games that are sort of smaller. He doesn't like big sprawling games. Anyway, I just bring him up, one, to say check out his podcast because it's fantastic, but also just to say a little hats off to him, because Board Games to Go has been now going 20 years. It's in its 21st season. So that's an amazing accomplishment for a podcaster. So hats off to Mark for that one. That's amazing. Good for him. And then this just last piece of news. This sucks. San Diego HistCon has canceled their East event. They had a San Diego HistCon East last summer at the U.S. Naval War Museum on the East Coast, and it was a big success. And they plan to do it again this year, but they've pulled the plug because basically because the Naval War Museum is really unsure what their funding is going to be like going forward. Let's not have any politics chat. Nobody's going to change anybody's mind about anything tonight, but I can see how the Naval War Museum is wondering about cuts and funding and all that kind of stuff with all the cuts that are going on in Washington. So anyway, that totally sucks that they have to cancel that. But they, if you're itching for some more SD HistCon stuff, they do have their online convention coming up in June. I think it's June 6th, which totally sucks for me too, because I'm going to be on a family holiday to Iceland right then. So it's going to be no SD HistCon for me this year, it seems. All right, a few new releases. This first one, Worthington's trying something new in their Hold the Line series with Hannibal. So if you've played Hold the Line before, it's low complexity, sort of a bit like Commands and Colors, but not blocks, it's counters. But the same sort of thing where you cards and activate and whatnot. And they've I think they got the Hold the Line. They had some maybe American Revolution stuff, games and stuff. Anyway, I think this is the first time they've gone to Ancients. So good for them. I think that might be the only new release I have here. So straight to what's a new release for me? What's come in the mail for me? The first one is Molly House. This is a game from Whirligig Games, designed by Joe Kelly, and then co-designed by Cole Worley. I first saw a prototype of this game online at ST HistCon's first online convention. I guess that was about 3 years ago, and Joe Kelly did a sort of a demo of where the game was at then. I think he'd entered it into. I'm not sure if it was the Zenobia. I don't think the Zenobia Awards were even around then. But anyway, it's come a long way since then. It obviously caught a few people's eye, including Cole Worley, who signed into Whirligig Games and became a designer and brought the thing to fruition. So I'm totally interested in playing it. This is not a war game, of course, but it's definitely a political game, a social political game. It's about being living as a queer person in Georgian London and trying to keep one step ahead of the law and all that. So maybe this is a game that I can convince my family to play, because of course they won't play any war games with me. This is another game I got from Hollenspiel that I didn't mention last time. Because I was talking so much about Oblique. This is by John Thiessen, who I don't know if he has any other Ancients games here. This is obviously the Roman Civil War, but he's got a whole bunch of Civil War games that I have, and he's an interesting designer. So obviously Hollenspiel and Amabel really like him because they just keep putting out his games. So I keep trying them. I can't wait to check it out. I have no idea if it's going to be the same sort of system he uses in the Civil War games or not. I have a feeling the scale is completely different, so probably not. And then finally, this is an older one. This is an Operational Matters magazine, and it contains Sicily 2, which is a smaller OCS game. When we'll probably be talking about OCS tonight when we talk about games on people's shelf of opportunity or shelf of shame. Certainly, OCS is on mine. It's on mine. So, anyway, I I picked this. I ordered this direct from MB. I can't remember if I got it from MMP or from maybe I got it from a seller on BGG. Can't remember. Anyway, I just thought, a smaller OCS. Maybe this is the way to ease myself into that system. So we'll see. Yeah, and that's. I guess that's it for the new releases. So let's get right into it. Let's get into talking about what shelves of opportunity, shelves of shame. Yeah, that's my thinking exactly, David. That's what scares me about OCS. I do like to ease into things. Anyway, I've got a whole list of the reasons why I think, or at least for me, games end up on my shelf of opportunity, shame, whatever you want to call it. And I'll go through them with you and highlight a few games. But go ahead and chime in with whatever you think that whatever games are on your shelf of shame, or if any of these reasons resonate with you. Well, there we go. So maybe I made a mistake. See, that's the thing with OCS. It's always got something that's going to scare you. We'll talk about. I mean, some things just you build them up in your head and you think they're going to be more difficult than they are. But anyway, so let's talk about a few other ones. Oh, that's good. So this is the kind of information I need. So great. Start with boots on the ground. It'll be easy. Good to see you here tonight, Stuart. I know from listening to you and reading your blog that you're a recent convert to OCS, which made me drop my jaw to the floor. I didn't see that one coming, given all the games you typically seem to like. So I thought, man, if Stuart likes this, then maybe it's time for me to get on it, and maybe I'll like it as well. So great. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about a few things. Here's one. Let's talk about reasons things end up on your shelf, on your shelf of shame, right? Why is it that we get a game sometimes and we don't play it? I mean, obviously we buy too many to play them as fast as we buy them. That's a problem. But how do we decide as they're coming in which ones gets played and which ones end up on the shelf? For me, I'm going to just admit right up front, one of the things that can hold me back sometimes is the size of the box. Like just literally, the size of the box can scare me. Well, let's get rid of this. Here we go. Here's a good example. This one came in a while ago, and it sat on my shelf of shame for ever since it was released. It was terribly expensive, a really expensive game, especially to get it here to Canada. And then I just let it sit there. And but out of all the games that I'm going to talk about tonight from my shelf of shame, this is the one that I can say I actually am finally playing. We're playing via Vassal, and it's crazy. It's going swimmingly. It's not hard at all. I mean, we haven't got to the combat part of the game yet. We've done 1937 and 1938, so we're just at the very beginning of 39. So the game hasn't totally opened up, but all the card play has been not hard at all. Yeah, I can see that. 50 hours to play. I don't doubt it. There's just two of us playing, and we're doing it over Vassal PBM. So I wouldn't be surprised if it takes us over a year to play it. But I've taken over a year to play games via Vassal before. So who knows? Yeah. I get you there, Stuart, with the other OCS stuff. Those big OCS, East Front OCS scare me still as well. But I do have Luzon. I don't have Korea, but I do have Luzon. So maybe that'll be it. Yeah, you're good point, Joshua. Well, you can play my copy. Maybe we should just get a game of that going, and I'll have my second game of PBM. Maybe that's the way we'll do it. Anyway, that's Axis Empires. I can say that was the size of the box scared me. And Joshua, this one you'll know it scares me too, because we've talked about playing this together. Because or any out of this series, any of these GTS games. I've got 4 of them now, I think, and they all are unpunched. They just look so huge, right? It's like, I don't know, it's so intimidating. I know there's smaller scenarios, but you open those boxes up, and you pick the box up, it's heavy. You open the box, there's a million counters. In some of these games, there's 2 or 3 rule books of different kinds. It's I don't know. Something about these games, just the size of the box, definitely scares me. Oh, this one, I'm going to put this one up from John. So he bought Flat Top Use, and all the counters are in a single bag. So he hasn't played it because he doesn't know when he's going to sort out the bags. He's calling it the bag of shame. That's yeah, that's not on my list of possible reasons for me, but I can totally see that. Can you imagine those people who bought a big box of ASL that had like 3 or 4 modules, and it's just in a box? I would just leave it in the box. Actually, that's funny you say that, John, because Mark Herman told a funny story about how he had, I think, the very first version of Berg's 3 Days of Gettysburg, and there was nothing in that game where that told you which counters went to which. There was like 3 different scenarios or something, 3 different days, I guess, but there was different scenarios, different counters for each one, but they weren't. There was nothing that said they were, and Herman knocked the box over, and all the counters got intermingled. He picked them up and put them in the box, and he said it's been sitting on his shelf of opportunity ever since. So it happens to the mighty as well, I guess. Yeah. Well, yeah. Good to see you again, Stephen. Drop me an email with your phone number. I needed to send you your game from 2 weeks ago. But yeah, well, then you have a shelf of opportunity, right? You don't have a shelf of shame. You got the shelf of opportunity. I think a lot of us have that. Might one day want to play them. And given how quickly they go out of production, for sure, I bought GCACW games for that reason. Also because I think, well, even if I don't play them, I'll probably be able to sell them for $500 when MMP refuses to reprint them. Yeah, yeah. I'm with you, Jonathan. Um, uh, I need to ease into things as well. Like some of those older games where it's just like they have like it's the campaign game or nothing, and it's like, oh my god, it feels like jumping into the deep end of the pool. Right. Yeah. Well, this is what people keep telling me. So I'm hoping. Uh, yeah, I'm just going to take your word for it. And we're gonna finally play at some point, and then that'll be over. Um, here's another reason that sometimes we'll leave a game on my shelf. Sometimes there's a game where I see the game, it looks interesting, but it's I know that it's going to have totally new concepts. That it's going to be like, I'll have heard that this is going to be like nothing I've ever played before, or that sort of thing. And it's like I get the feeling like I want to play it, but then it sits on the shelf because I go, oh, it's going to be a big lift to learn that new game. Um, here's a perfect example. Prelude to Rebellion takes place in my native Canada before it really was a Canada. Um, it looked like a really cool game. The people that have played it really like it. And then, there's been a second one in the series, Prelude to Revolution, on the Russian Revolution, another good looking game. But they just look so completely different that it's kept me from playing them because it's I don't know. There's nothing. You look at that board for Prelude to Rebellion. If you've seen it, I don't know. There's something almost like a spreadsheety look about it, or piles of cubes or something. I don't know what it is. Anyway, it scared me off. Um, Another one in this line is RAF. This is a completely well loved game. This is its third publisher, I think, maybe third version. I think it started out as strictly a solo game where you were just the British, I think, and then when it went to its second publisher, John Butterfield added so that there was two solos or you could play competitively. But and then now there's this new deluxe version, which is the cover that I show here. But there's something about it's like I haven't played anything that remotely looks like this, and I think, oh my gosh, I gotta look at this big box, look at this big rule book. I'm gonna have to learn all this. I'll play this instead. I'll play Blind Swords again, or that just happens sometimes. Oh, that's interesting. I'll look for those. Yeah. Well, great. Thanks, James. That's good. I'll give that a go. And well, uh, David says the Prelude games aren't all that complex, which is good. So I guess the thing is, I don't worry about them being complex. It's just sometimes when it's going to be all new, I feel like I don't want to do something new. I want to do something familiar. I don't know. Will's, that's maybe that one's just me. Maybe I'm the only one with this thing. Yeah, I see a lot of talk in the chat about BCS. Well, I'll definitely get to a BCS game later in my list here for sure. But I agree with a lot of what's been said here. I've heard great things about it, and as Stephen points out here, yeah, many are out of production because that's the MMP way, right? Is print a small whack, sell them all, and then it's and then who knows when it'll be reprinted again, if ever. So buy two and play one and keep the other one. Sell it if your kid needs orthodonture. That's my advice. You heard it here first. Okay, here's another reason why at least a couple games of mine have ended up on my shelf of shame. You hear about a game and you buy it because it sounded great or it looked great on the shelf, and you don't play it as soon as you got home, and between the time you bought it and you go to play it, you hear somebody say, "Oh, the rules for that are a mess," and your heart just sinks, right? It's like this is the current poster child for that. This I think this game is probably very playable now, but when this game first came out, there was just such an uproar about the rules. I'd backed this via Kickstarter, and I was so excited to get it. And before I got it on the table, the BTG and Consim World were going crazy with how terrible that the rule book was. The designer immediately came out with a 1.1 version of the rules, and then a 1.2, still not right, 1.3. It's all it's up to 1.5 now, and I think people are finally feeling happy. So I'll finally play it. But man, that definitely kept me from playing this game when it's a beautiful production. If anybody has this, it's a gorgeous looking game, great box, great components, but I was just gun shy of the rules. It looked terrible. And then the other one, this is an older one. Uh, I bought it. I think I mentioned it on a podcast or some live stream, and immediately um, people like Stigler, if anybody knows Stigler, jumped in and said, "Oh, you can't play that. The rules for that are terrible, and it's a complete mess." And then, so then I look online a bit, and yeah, people seem to think that the rules are a complete mess. It's three games that have been pulled into one to make this big deluxe version, and the rules just haven't been totally sorted out. So um, I don't know when I'm going to get this one to played. It's a lot of the ones we looked at tonight. I feel like, yeah, I'll get past it. I'll play it. But this one, I just haven't heard anything that makes me think I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that I'm going to get that on the table. It's funny because you think, I don't know, it's been out for so long. You think that either Decision would have got the rules cleaned up, or some people would have posted some homebrew fixes that are like, if Decision doesn't fix this up, we will, and make this playable. But I haven't seen anything like that for this game. So yeah, I feel like until I hear something good about it, I'm just not gonna get it onto my table. Oh man, I just have a quick look at the chat. The OCS BCS thing is completely in full bloom. Yeah, those. I think you can play both, but I can see some people pick one or the other. Yes. Oh, James. Totally. I should have put that one on the list. I bought. I think I backed that. I think I P500 not, or I think I kickstarted it or whatever they did, and then immediately heard that the rules were a mess, and I'd opened the box and then put it right back on the shelf, and that was that. And I haven't picked it up again yet, and it's too bad because that one, yeah, it was another one that I was really looking forward to. It sounded like a it was going to be a cool new idea, and yeah, who's got time to fart around with crappy rules when there's so many games with perfectly great rules to play with? Wow. So Stephen says that he played ILO 1807 as well as something else with that great group, the First Minnesota, that David Doctor used to talk about all the time when he had his podcast. So I don't know, Stephen, if you played with the 1.4 rules or the 1.3 rules or what you played with, but if you played it, obviously you said you played it, so it must have worked. So that's a vote in favor of that game now being on the playable list. $1.5. Okay, well, there we go. So that's the latest rules, and that's the one everybody seems to be happy about. So yeah, the rules were a mess. ILO 1807, Desert Fox Deluxe, and Flanks of Gettysburg. Those are all on my list for that reason. Oh, well, congratulations to somebody who's making it down on them. I think mine is still growing faster than it's shrinking, but that's the way it goes. Here's another reason why I sometimes have games end up on my shelf of opportunity. Every once in a while, I'll buy a whack of games from a local sale, like used, or even through whenever I buy from Noble Knight, I tend to only buy from them, say, once a year, so that I can put all the shipping in one big thing and get the free shipping, do it that way. But then you get a box of like a dozen games or something, and so it's just it's like adding a dozen games to your unplayed shelf just like that, and there's no way to play them all really quickly. Here's a good example. A local guy I know was selling off his old strategy and tactics magazines collection, and most of them, the games were unpunched. So I bought like about 20 of them from him, and now I have 20 magazine games where I've only played one of them so far. So at least they don't take up a lot of space on the shelf. Um, another, in terms of uh, a big whack from Noble Knight, I got this game from Noble Knight for a couple reasons. Another reason is just because I like the designer so much. This is a Kim Kanger, but it's another one where I got it in a box of like 10 or 12 games from Noble Knight last year, or maybe even, last year, I think. And yeah, it's just, I'm just digging myself a hole when I buy 12 at a time, right? There's no getting around that. Yeah, well, uh, I hear you, Dave, when you say you shy away from magazine games because they just stack up on your shelf. I used to shy away from magazine games. I think it sprung from when the S&Ts were first coming out. I was more of a diehard Avalon Hill buyer, and I would buy the S&T flat packs. But there was something about there was something in my sort of OCD brain that I just didn't trust S&T's magazine games to be guaranteed play tested enough when they had to fit such a rigid publishing schedule. So I kind of looked down my nose at them for years, and now I regret it because there was a lot of great games that came out that I missed. But they do kind of stack up on the shelf, because the other thing about them is they kind of disappear on the shelf as well, right? They don't have that, when I go by my shelf of unplayed games, like REF is right there. It's I can't miss it. But my stack of magazine games, I can walk by it and not miss it all the time. Yeah, yeah. That was one thing they had. Uh, they definitely had that in their favor, that they were magazine games were affordable. But at that point, uh, Avalon, I was only buying maybe 2 Avalon Hill games a year as well, so I wasn't breaking the bank. Maybe 3. I remember when they went from $12 to $18, it was like, oh my God, this is like, how am I ever going to afford $18? Oh, my mom's going to kill me if I spend $18 on a game. uh, those were the days, obviously. Well, that's I'm glad you found it a fascinating game, Joshua. I find the designer. He's the Kim Kang is the guy who designed Nemesis Burma, which is one of my really favorite games, and also Dien Ben Phu. His Dien Ben Phu is the best game on the subject. Get that game if you have a chance; it's fantastic. So anyway, when I had a chance to get a used game on from Kim Kenninger, I jumped on it. We'll see. Um, so yeah, so James has had the same thing as me. You buy a bunch of games at the GMT sale, and they all come, and you can play one, and then there's something about it. Once they go on the shelf, it can be hard to get them off the shelf, right? If they don't go straight to the table, sometimes it's really hard to go back to the shelf and get them off there again. That's I don't know. Maybe that's just me. You can let me know if you have the same struggle. Yeah, I Joshua, I I don't subscribe either. I tend to buy um, I tend to buy them sort of if I want the game or not. That's how I've been doing it with ATO, for example. The only one that I subscribe to, which is crazy, is Vevictus, which the whole magazine's in French. The game's the only thing in English, but it's it's free shipping from France. So it feels like it's a real bargain. So yeah, there you go. That's the only one I really uh, the only one I subscribe to. That's what I'm trying to say. Well, that's I get it, Stuart, when you say block games aren't great solo, of course, but I I've had great times playing block games on Vassal, no problem. Of course, a ton of them were commands and colors, so it's not the fog of war Vassal types. It's the type with the stickers on both sides of the blocks. But I I I think I played over 250 games of Commands and Colors Ancients via Vassal PBEM. I was totally into it for a few years. I still play Commands and Colors Napoleonics that way, and I've got easily 100 games of that under my belt as well. And that's all PBEM. None of that's live. Which I know some Commands and Colors players they shake their heads. They can't believe anybody would play that game asynchronously. But you got to do what you got to do if that's the way if that's the only way you can do. Oh, yes, I see what you mean. The masking and unmasking of the hidden blocks for Columbia. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm playing Julius Caesar and Hammer of the Scots on Rally the Troops at the moment, and uh, that goes more smoothly than playing those games via Vassal. That's for sure. I've played both of those games via Vassal, but this is much smoother. Absolutely. One last one that I bought in a local sale here, and this is one Clash of Giants. This is maybe the very first volume of this. I had only played the I played Clash of Giants. There's one volume that's American Civil War that has Gettysburg and something else in it, and I played that and I loved it. So when I saw this, somebody had one of those. It wasn't an estate sale. It was somebody who was moving, getting rid of a bunch of stuff. I jumped on it because I really like the system. It's Ted Racer, and I'd heard that the Tannenberg game was one of the best ones in the series. So I jumped on it, and yet there it is, still sitting on my shelf. So yeah, that thing about buying a whack at a time can really make the shelf pile up. I'm I'm trying to refrain from doing that as often as I have in the past, but we'll see how that goes. Self discipline isn't my strong suit. Um, okay, the next one is I'm sure I'm not the only one who has games piles up for this reason. How many of you are completionists with a certain series? I'm not a total completionist in every series that I like, but like I have all the blind swords games, for example. I have all the Commands and Colors Ancients games, and then even well, let's look at this one. This is ASL. Of course, nobody can have all of ASL anymore, except maybe Mark Pitcabbage, who, if you don't know him, he runs the Desperation Morale site that reviews every ASL product that comes out. But I mean, I keep buying ASL stuff. I do have two games on the go at the moment, and another one ready to go as soon as my partner's done teaching this semester. But I just looked. I have 2,150 scenarios by the count of, if you enter everything you own ASL wise into this site called ASLscenarioarchive.com. It just gives you, it's a great resource. It'll list all and it'll tell you how many you have. So, I have over 2,000 scenarios, and yet here I am still buying more ASL stuff because I don't know. It's not even fear of missing out. I don't know what it is. Just sometimes like something looks good, or it's not like I buy everything. I don't even buy everything from NNP anymore. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But oh, uh, Jonathan, is that the completionist thing? Because yeah, that's definitely me. As I said before, like here's a blind swords. I buy all the blind swords. I was buying them all in Ziplocs before I started reviewing them, and then I started doing that so much. The guys at Revolution sent me a couple, so that was very nice of them. But it took money out of their pockets because I definitely would have bought them. I love that system so much. I cannot not. I'm going to wait. I think there's only been one that I went even about. That was like a meh. All the rest are like 2 thumbs up. So who knows? I'm Great battles of history. I've managed. I think I have one, maybe maybe either the Alexander one or the Julius Caesar one. They're definitely on my shelf of opportunity. I'm. I don't know if I'll ever play. Like, I bought them because I thought I should get into this. I should figure it out. But I keep looking at it and go, I don't know that this is going to be really my thing. When I play, we'll say some of a similar sort of thing in some ways, the Men of Iron series, I feel like you line up two groups of two armies and smash them into each other and see what happens. When I play some of those ancients or medieval games, it feels to me like I'm not. I don't have a lot of strategy and tactics going on. I just have a lot of running wildly forward and trying to hack the other guy before he hacks me. It could just be I'm a terrible player at these games, and that's why I keep playing the Men of Iron, looking for an opponent who's going to whip me and show me. Not that I'm good. It's just that all the guys I played so far have been as bad as me. Maybe somebody will show me how to play it well, and that there is some subtleties that I'm missing. I don't know. Well, yeah, that's Stuart says he can't be a completionist due to living space being too small. Yeah, that's uh, I have a house. I'm a I live in Canada on the prairie where everything is big. We're like we need like this much space around us at all times. If we go to a place like New York or Tokyo, we start to freak out because there's not enough personal space. So space is definitely not a problem with me. Oh man, Josh, it's like the number of games that we put on our list that we need to play together. I mean, like I don't know that I have enough years left. I'm getting up there, buddy. Like we're gonna have to sort of prioritize what we're going to play first. I think because I don't know. We'll have to see. Um, yeah. Same here, Jonathan. I've actually got all the Compass Commands and Colors products as well because that's the Tricorn. That's the Tricorn series, and Tricorn is probably my favorite of all the Commands and Colors series. The one mechanism that series has, where if a unit has to retreat, it has to roll a sort of a morale check, and if it fails, it's out. I love that. It definitely makes keeping your lines intact a real thing, but sometimes isn't in some of the other Commands and Colors games. Yeah, I'm not surprised with this, Stuart. I've listened to your podcast and the Games du Jour podcast and read your blog enough to know that you're a giant fan of Men of Iron. Absolutely. Um, uh, I guess the other one that I had in terms of this, I could put others where I'm a completionist, but another one where I've bought games that I've only played two or three out of the series, and yet I have maybe 6 or 7. Is Mark Simonich's. Uh, I still call it the Zokbon series, even though I know Africa 41 doesn't actually have Zokbons, but it's still, it's either that or call it the 40X. Somewhat, I don't know. Yeah, I'm still gonna call it Zokbon. Anyway, I put this one as the picture because I haven't played this. I've played Holland, I've played France, and I played half a scenario of the Africa 41. I haven't played more of that, and I think there's one more, but I can't remember. But I have Normandy 44. I have what is it? Ukraine, I think it's called. It's a big East Front one. So yeah, I'll buy anything. I'll buy anything that he makes in this series. Not to mention, I kind of buy anything he. We'll get to this later, but I think I'll buy anything that he makes because his game, the U.S. Civil War, is hands down my favorite strategic level U.S. Civil War game. I love that game, and similar to Kim Kanger, who's also an artist, the fact that Simonich designs the game, designs the map, designs the counters, like you're getting everything. It's all one person's vision realized exactly how they want it realized. There's the only time they ever have to compromise is if the publisher won't stretch the budget. But yeah, I think that's seems to be part of the reason I like both Simonich and Kim Kanger. Okay, well, listen, I did a draw last week. I haven't. I don't plan to do a draw every week, but I wanted. It went nicely last week, so I'd like to do it again. We'll see. This week, no, it's not that Happy King Charles game behind me. It's. I want to. I'm going to give away a copy of Harold Buchanan's Flashpoint South China Sea. It's been opened, played once, but still in beautiful shape. There's nothing wrong with the game. Perfectly good game. It's just a case of me trying to pare my shelves down. I got to make room for more games that I'm not going to play, obviously. So we'll use the. Where did have I got this somewhere? Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, we'll use hashtag pusher. So if you want to get get yourself entered into the draw for a free copy of Flashpoint South China Sea, just type hashtag pusher into the chat. They'll scroll. This StreamYard tool will gather them all up, and a little later I'll push the button and we'll find out who wins. And don't worry if you live in South Australia or you live in Korea. Don't worry, I'll send it wherever it needs to go. So yeah, hashtag pusher. And anyway, back to what we were talking about here. Yes, the so yeah, sometimes I'm just a completionist for certain series. So well, this one Well, welcome, Will. I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see you follow the happy wife, happy life rule. Uh, uh, I live by that myself. Um, my Another reason I sometimes get games, but they don't get played is because either the game or the series or whatever, I hear they're good, but I just haven't quite got there to play them yet. For me, the poster boy for that is GCACW. Um, I think I have 5 or 6 of these that are all unpunched. Um, I've I've only taken the shrink off to make unboxing videos and make sure everything was in there. No joke. If I decide I don't like GCACW, I'll easily get my money back on all these. So it wasn't the hardship to buy them. But I have so many friends and people that I met, through doing the podcast or doing the YouTube, that like people totally love GCACW. Um, so much so that I now have, since I said actually a couple months ago that it was on my, I was bound and determined to learn GCACW this year. 2 people have reached out to me privately and said, "Hey, I'll teach you live on Vassal." So I'm going to take them both up on it and try and get the both of them. Well, this is here's another one. Here's another one for the same sort of thing. I have I think 3 of these Kevin Zucker games. The Library of Napoleonic Battles. Again, uh, um, hear great things about it. A lot of people love this series. It's been, Kevin Zucker's he was around in the golden days of the 70s. Like he's been around forever. But for some reason, I just haven't. Despite their good reputation, I've never got them to the table. Yeah, that's good to know, Stuart. GCACW isn't as complex as it looks. That's what people keep telling me. The rule books make it look perhaps more complex than it is. There's something about the series rules, the way. I'm not a big fan of the way the gamers MMP lay out their rule books anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I still think I'm going to love GCACW. I have played GBACW, and I'll try it again, but it didn't tickle me the way I thought it might. But I played well, I can't remember the game I played, but it was a magazine game from old S&T or a flat pack from before it was actually called GBACW. So it was like the precursors when Berg was just inventing it, I guess. Joshua says he probably doesn't have the patience to learn the Zucker games. And it's when I hear things like that, I go, "Oh God, I have to have patience." And then maybe the game will sit there for another another month or so. Oh, that's interesting. So Stuart says he found GB ACW too complicated, but he's going to give By Swords and Bayonets a try. That's the new one that's coming out. That's going to be smaller scale, smaller battles. I don't know if the unit scale is actually going to be smaller as well. I'm not sure. I know with Battles of the American Revolution, they're coming out with a smaller scale thing where the games are going to be smaller and the unit scale is actually going to be smaller. The hex scale is actually going to be smaller. But I think this, as far as I know, this By Swords and Bayonets is just going to be smaller engagements, like one mappers, half mappers, like smaller like that. So everybody's talking about it as it's going to be like everybody's new entry game into GPACW. We'll see. Who knows? And then the final series that everybody says they're good, and I just haven't got to it, is BCS. I have a feeling that out of all the CS series from the gamers, I have a feeling that BCS is going to be the one that tickles me the most. And yet, I haven't played it. I mean, I haven't played OCS yet. I've only played a little bit of SCS. So it's all I don't. It's all unknown to me. This BCS series, though, there's I don't know, it sounds to me like the logistics, the supply system is not as fiddly as it is in OCS, and that's what makes me think I'm gonna like BCS better. But who knows? Like if Stuart Ellis Gorman finds OCS a treat to play, then maybe it's going to be for me as well. Maybe I've been avoiding it for like the last 5 years when I really should have been diving in and playing it. Well, that's interesting, James. That makes me think then the very first thing I should do when I finally do sit down to play Brazen Chariots is to read the designer notes, which is not, I generally tend to read the designer's notes after my first play. I bash my way through. I tend to kind of leaf through a rule book, find the scenario card, lay things out, look up the sequence of play, and then bash my way through. And well, I mean, the first thing I always look at is what the victory conditions are, and then bash my way through and learn the rules section so that I need to, and then I'll go back and learn the whole thing more properly. But I like a bash through as my first way through a game, and then I read the designer's notes later. And I always find it interesting because they often talk about what they were trying to accomplish, or they give a hint at what maybe what they were thinking or what their particular bias was. And I like to have played the game before I see that and then say, oh, did I feel that? Did I notice that? That's always interesting to me. Well, yeah, that's the same with a lot of these. I mean, I don't think these games are going to be super heavy, but there's a certain weight to a game where if you let it go for a couple years, it does take a time to get it back. That's there's no doubt about that. Okay, this is funny. I don't think anybody's put their name in for the draw, so I don't think perhaps the game I chose to give away this episode is not a game that either everybody already has or that it wanted. So unless there's a few late registers of hashtag pusher. There we go. Yeah. Well, Thomas, you're so there we go. Great. I'm not going to draw it yet. I'll draw it, but I noticed none had come up yet, so I thought I better mention it in case nobody wanted it. Okay, this one is similar to the big box one. Sometimes a game sits on my shelf, but I just have a feeling that the rules are going to be like a tough slog. I'm sure that there's other people. I'm not the only one. I bought this game. I never had the Victory Games version, and I just thought, I should learn it. This is it's got a there's a reason they reprinted it. It's by Mark Herman. He's a pretty dependable designer, and I bought it. And there it sits on the shelf, unplayed, unpunched. Haven't tried to get it into to rustle it into counter trays or anything like that. Oh yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. I bet John, you're not the same way on that one. I uh, that's a big meaty game as well that I think sits on a lot of shelves. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good because I tend to generally like the way GMT lays out scenarios and Mark Herman. Uh, uh, I have a burning hatred of the way the gamers and MMP lay out their scenarios, other than ASL. I hate it when they're just. Actually, I have a burning hatred of the way um, Blind Swords Revolution lays out their scenarios. I just hate it so much. But a good scenario layout can really bring me along and make me put the game out that much faster. If there's a scenario, if I see a scenario card, man, I get it to the table just like that. If I see a list of units that starts halfway down page 17 and then comes it starts at the top of page 18 and then finishes halfway down there, and it's one unit per line with a hex, it's just like, oh, I've gone to sleep. Uh, and I'm angry. It's there's just no reason for people to keep uh, publishing crappy scenario layouts like that. Oh yeah, that's a huge one. I could have put Fighting Wings is the one Joshua talks about. The Motherland one, or Wings of the Motherland. I see that on the shelf. I could have put that in that first column if I owned it. The games that are just like these big, heavy boxes. Just it's just like totally intimidating. Well, there you go. Because OCS is the next one on my thing where I just have the feeling the rules are going to be tough, and yeah I hear you, Stuart. The setup instructions are miserable. All it's the same thing in BCS. It's the same thing in, like I said, Blind Swords. There's just certain the way certain publishers are trying to save the trees single-handedly by cramming everything, by never putting a page break anywhere. Just one thing follows another, no matter what. It makes everything miserable to read, and and it, and they do themselves no favors because it doesn't make their rule books or their scenario books pleasant in any way. Anyway, so in terms of just having a feeling that the rules are going to be tough, yeah, OCS, that's that's long been my feeling. I've shied away from it because you just always hear about these goddamn supply rules, and it always put me off. And and as I've said several times tonight, I didn't feel any hope for ever getting to the series until I saw Stuart, who does not like wrestling with long slogs of rule books or games that are more convoluted than they need to be. When he said he liked it, it was like, huh, well, maybe I could do it. So yeah, David, that's what I think. I I just have two. I have Burma, and then I have like I have one of the magazine ones. I can't remember what it is. Oh well, no, it's that one. It's the Sicily one, the one I talked about earlier. Yeah, so I think that's about all I have. Um, um, but there's hope. And then the last one I had in this category, and I just have Kharkov. I don't have Ardennes. I haven't played Ardennes. Um, John Butterfield's one of those guys that I like. I trust. I trust with my gamer's life, but there's something about this series that I have this feeling that it's going to be a bit of a lift to learn it. So I don't know. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know. Like, chime in if you've played it. Um, that's very cool, Stephen, to have met JD Webster. That's kind Did you play the Fleet series with JD Webster, or did you play any of JD Webster's games with him? That's interesting. Um, yeah, Enemy Action Ardennes. Um, I love the way, like again, with similar to RAF. I love the way John Butterfield takes solo games one step further, where he lets you solo either side or play it competitively. Uh, I've heard some grousing that Kharkov doesn't play as well competitively as Ardennes did, but whatever. I don't know. Something about it just makes me go, I sort of like, I need a weekend at a cabin or something to wrap my head around these enemy action games. I don't know. Well, there we go. There you go. So maybe I'm right to be afraid, David. If you were sort of taught by John Butterfield himself at GMT, and it didn't go. Yeah, and then here we go. We got the both sides of the argument. So, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Play the two-player game first before you play the solo game. That's interesting. Even if you're going to play solo, just play the two-player solo just to learn the system, and then play the solo system. Okay, I'll take that under consideration. That's that sounds good. That's a good tip. Second Fleet. That's the only one of the Fleet series I own. Uh, yeah. And so you guys played Fleet instead of one of his games. Had he designed his flying games yet? Who knows? Maybe he just wanted to play some Second Fleet. That's very good. Okay, I've got one final category, which is and we sort of touched on it when we talked about we'll buy all the games in a certain series. I tend to go like there's certain designers that I just trust, and unless I really hate the topic, I'll probably buy the game. Doesn't mean I'll always play it. This is a Mark Herman game. I've never had a Mark Herman game that I didn't enjoy, that I didn't think was a good game, or sometimes a great game. But there's something about this one that's made me sort of feel, I don't know. I just haven't jumped on it yet. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get Peloponnesian War. Maybe not as an exciting a topic as for me as, but I don't know. It's not like I don't like ancients. Hands in the Sea, Second Punic War. Love that game. Who knows? So yeah, Mark Herman, 2-1 here. I'm happy with anything from Butterfield or Chad Jensen, really, and yet this one is still on my shelf. So it's one of those cases where it's like I bought it because I trust the designers, but it hasn't got off the shelf yet. It might have a bit of the feeling of the rules are going to be not a huge lift, but a bit of a lift. I've seen it played a little bit at conventions. I'm sure they weren't playing I assume they weren't playing the whole thing, but it also looks when I saw it on the table, it also looked very big. So who knows? Well, so now I know who to teach me that. There we go. And then finally, I'll buy just about anything. Oh no, I'm not a solo guy, so a lot of David Thompson's games I don't buy. The occasional solo game, just because it's David Thompson and I like his stuff. But his two-player games I just about always play. I've loved everything I've played in the Undaunted series, but that's actually I've only played the first box complete because that's the only one that there's a vassal module for. Osprey's not into making vassal modules, but they don't squash anybody who makes them. So far, that's the only one that's got a vassal module. I don't. I'd love to play this Stalingrad one. If it had a vassal module, I don't have anybody local to play it with because this is if you don't know, this isn't like the other ones. This is one scenario impacts the next scenarios. What do they call that? A legacy game? I don't know. They call it something. Anyway, it. I'd love to play it and see how it all works out. Yeah, that's exactly it. That was kind of part of why I bought that. That it was the side switching thing that it's got shades of the Churchill game where if anybody's played Churchill, the thing with Churchill is you want to win, but you don't want to win by too much. If you win by too much, you actually lose because it means that at the end of the war, the other two sides are going to gang up against you in the Cold War. So it's not that exact thing in Peloponnesian War, but there you do get penalized for being too successful. Sounds totally interesting. Yeah, Undaunted's great. It's fantastic. When I first looked at the first Undaunted, I thought it was. I thought, it looks all generic. It's not. I'm a serious war gamer. This isn't going to be for me. And I played the first couple scenarios and went, I was right. This is terrible. And then somebody said, no, the first 3 scenarios are learning scenarios. They're terrible scenarios. Play farther. I played 4, 5, and 6, and then it was just like, oh my God, this is a fantastic game. I love it. And then we just played the whole thing. Well, there now you guys are just rubbing it in this whole Undaunted Stalingrad thing. Well, I don't know. I'm not too far from retirement. Maybe I'll find some other retired guys who want to play Undaunted Stalingrad locally with me. Who knows? That's all the games. That's all the reasons that I thought of for games not, or for the way games ended up on the shelf. I don't know. I guess not enough time is obviously a reason we all have for games ending up on the shelf, and we're we buy them faster than we can play them. That's just the obvious things. I don't know. Is what other reasons are there that you buy a game and never play it? I don't know. I covered all the ones I can think of. If you can think of another, shout it out because you'll probably say something and I'll go, oh yeah, I can name 3 games in my collection that are on my shelf for the same reason. Because there's, I think I named 21 games tonight. That's maybe a fifth of my unplayed collection. Probably not even. Yeah, I've got. Oh yeah, well that's an interesting one. Yeah. John says multiplayer games like Here I Stand. I hear you. I do not get much of a chance to play big multiplayer games, and in fact, I tend not to buy them. I buy them occasionally. I do have Here I Stand, and I have Kingmaker, but I don't think I have a copy of Virgin Queen. And a lot of those, even 4 players, I often don't. I don't buy. I'll go as far as 3 players sometimes, but it's just that thing. It's the multiplayer games. I don't have. I'm not hooked up with locals to play multiplayer games with, and in general, I've had shitty experiences playing multiplayer games via Vassal. Um, it's sort of a case of like I've had literally dozens of great Vassal opponents. Every once in a while, you get a bad one. Not very often, but when you put a lot of effort into a six-player game, only to have one person drop out, or it turns out one person's just a real douchebag. Um, it it just sort of sours the whole game, and it just feels like if it's a two-player game and you're playing with a dirtbag, well, you can just quit it and go like, I don't think we're vibing with each other. Let's just quit. But if I'm in a six-player game and there's a dirtbag, I hang in there because I feel a responsibility to the other four non-dirtbags. So that's my long explanation for why I don't like to play multiplayer games. PBEM. Yeah. I well, to keep talking about this, but I think it's yes. Oh, I'll say this. Yeah, when I get a chance to play the multiplayer games live, I jump on it. Yeah, I was in the same game at SD HistCon with David last November, and we had a fantastic time. We fought each other, and we both lost, but we had a great time. Hey, glad to have you here, Sam Chap. I'm glad to see you put your name in for the draw of the game. Very good. Allowed to say douchebag. We invented the term. What do you think we call Americans? No, I'm just kidding. It's a hockey term. The players on the other team are all a bunch of douchebags. That's where that comes from. Yeah, I think actually maybe we should take a second to do the drawing, and we'll see who won the game. I just have to. Oh, I think I got this. Here we go. Oh, there it is. So if there's any last minute people who want to get hashtag pusher in and get their name in, go ahead because in 5 seconds I'm going to push this button. I'll just have a drink and then we'll go. Okay. Oh, good for you. Oh yeah, there's one a late entrant. Good to see you, Cardboard Commander. All right, here we go. I'm gonna. Where? Oh, I gotta. There we go. 6 entries in, and here we go. We'll see who gets it. Well, a late entrant, Cardboard Commander. Congratulations. I think I think we know each other on Discord, so you can just send me your details that way, and I'll get that game out to you. As I've learned from the last drawing, it's important that not just your address but your phone number. The Canada Post seems to like a phone number, so that I don't know, so that they can hand the phone number off to the U.S. Postal Service when they send it across the border. Yeah, we are on Discord. We've talked a bit together. Cardboard Commander's got his own channel, and so I encourage everybody to check him out as well. So getting back to just the what were you talking about? I find once a game sat on the shelf for a while, sometimes it's hard to get it like it's almost like they're sticky, right? It's like if you don't play them fast, sometimes it gets harder and harder to work up the enthusiasm for certain titles. You go by that shelf of unplayed games. If you keep your games, all your unplayed games in a certain place, and you can look at it and go, nothing's really jumping out at me. Some of the same reasons that they ended up on the shelf in the first place come out and get you, right. Like you go like. If you're worried about the rules lift or the complexity of the game or the size of the game, well, that hasn't changed since when you put it on the shelf for that reason in the first place. So you look at it again and go, yeah, I still think that's going to be a big rules lift. So I don't know. That's definitely a thing for me. Like if I'm going to play a game, it feels like I need to play it within sort of a month of getting it, or it risks being on that shelf for a year or two or longer. Hey, thanks. Good to see you, Stuka Joe. Thanks for dropping by. You weren't here earlier, but somebody was recommending one of your solo systems to me for a game that's sitting on my shelf of opportunities. So that's that. Yeah, that's it is. It's a ton of work to get prepared to play a new war game, and I like if I'm going to play with someone, I like to at least have of course read the rules, but I like to have pushed the counters around a bit at least. I don't have to have totally played the whole game, but I like to push the things around a bit too. So, but I'll have to say that one thing that gets me to play a game off my shelf of shame is when somebody, whether it's live or synchronously PBEM, or somebody matching up with me at a convention, if they say, hey, do you want to play X? And X is on my shelf of opportunity, I immediately say yes. It's like the best way for me to get a game off that shelf is when somebody says they want to play it with me, because I always feel like I'm never going to get a better opportunity to play a game than with someone who wants to play it with me, right? yeah, yeah. That for a while, just like making sure I clipped all my counters. I went through a little sort of a 2 period where I was just clipping everything furiously, and sort of partway through that 2 years, I was like, most of these games I'm playing via Vassal rather than live. I'm busting my hump clipping all the counters. So now I tend to ease up on clipping the counters until I actually know I'm going to play it live. If I'm going to play it just by myself, it might be heresy, but I don't have to have the counters clipped. And in fact, lots of times I play a game, push the counters around to see if I like it before I punch the counters, because I find it's easier to sell or trade a game that's unclipped than clipped. Sometimes guys like to get a game clipped because they don't have to do it, but some guys are really fussy and want to clip it themselves. So anyway, yeah. But you're not alone, right? Michael also says counter clipping is what holds him up. So who knows? Oh, that's hilarious. So maybe 20 years. That's funny. I just finally bought Bismarck, but I didn't buy the AH version. The Jack Green sort of redid it, and I got the Buka version now. But funny enough, I still haven't played it. So who knows? Yeah, this is absolutely it. There's there's that fear of missing out, or there's like, because so many of us are online, whether it's in video, podcasting, or BGG, Sim World, whatever, even the dreaded Facebook. Everybody's always talking about some new game that they really like, or or they just played and it's terrific, or they just heard about. And like it or not, I think that influences us. Well, I'm not talking for you folks. I know that I could hear, like, if 3 people in a row talk about how much they like this new game X, I find myself ordering it or going down to my local store and buying it. Yeah, that's absolutely true, Jonathan. I think uh, it's a totally unrelated thing. Well, no, it's sort of related. It's related definitely to what you say here. Um, I find I don't replay games since becoming a podcaster and a YouTuber now. Uh, I find I don't replay games as often as I used to. So that means I don't go as deeply as I used to. And I think I, I've made a point that I want to try go deep on at least one game a year going forward, because I really miss that. And I think if you can go, I do a lot of I do. I tend to not review games because I'm not going to review a game that I've only played once or twice. But once I've played a game 4 or 5 times, I feel like then maybe I have something to say about it. So that's, it makes me feel good to play a game over, and then I might actually be able to write something coherent in terms of a review rather than just an overview. I'm going to post this plug for Stuart, because I'm a big podcast listener as well as a podcaster myself, and this series, We Intend to Move On Your Works, is my favorite current podcast series. For those who don't know, Stuart and his pal Pierre are going through a whole whack of American Civil War games, kind of chronologically, with a couple of out of order bounces, but mostly chronologically, playing not just a single series, all like just trying to find a different game from a different series for each battle, and they talk about the games, and then they talk about the lost cause phenomena, and if there's any traces of it in the game, whether intentional or not. You look at some of those older games, I'm sure there's lost cause sort of tropes in some of those games that it's not like the designer of the game was a lost causer themselves. It was just in some ways part of the water that the people interested in the American Civil War were swimming in for years and years. Anyway, I've really enjoyed their podcast, and so totally check it out. Yeah, exactly. It's so much, like I've played a lot of Commands and Colors games because they're so easy to play over and over again. But I think the last game I played at like maybe 4 or 5 times was Greater Victory, Blind Swords, and maybe before that it was like U.S. Civil War, the Simonage game. Just about everything else, I play it once and move on, or if I seem to like it, I play it 2 or 3 times maybe. Oh, I played Oblique 3 times already, so I'll give that a bit of a plug. And although sometimes those games can be over in 30 minutes because you get yourself in a mess, and it's like, I'm not getting out of this. Oblique's a fairly unforgiving game. Another reason that I pull a game off the shelf definitely has to do with being a content creator. No doubt about that. Sometimes I'll have a game on my shelf that I need to do a review or an overview on, or I need to do something with it because somebody sent it to me. And every once in a while somebody sends a game unsolicited, I don't feel like I have to do something with those. But if I asked a publisher to send me something, I definitely feel a responsibility to do that. Or if a publisher has reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'd like to send you this," they generally don't say, "I'd like to send you this. Would you please put it on your podcast?" But that's why they're sending it to me, and if I accept it, then I go. I feel like I should do something with it, because they put their work into making the game and into sending it to me. So I I got to do it. That's all there is to it. Oh yeah. In the '80s, I played Upfront a ton, and then Upfront was one of the first games I played a ton of Vassal asynchronously. Like back in 2015, 2016, I probably played a dozen or 20 games of Upfront Vassal PBEM. It went great that way. Totally good. Loved it. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't know about. I haven't done so much with the watching, but often on the podcast, I've sometimes feature a new game and an old game, same episode, and people totally like hearing about an old game, either that they've played and they go, "Oh yeah, I love that game," or "hate that game," or whatever. But there's also like people that have like, "Oh, I've heard about that game, but I've never. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out. It's only $30 on the used market, because a lot of those games from the '70s and '80s, when they were still doing print runs that were like, I don't know, 10,000 games or whatever. They were way huger than the print runs that publishers do today. So that means games from what I think of as the first golden age of wargame in the '70s and '80s. There's a ton of those games available for decent prices on the secondary market. Well, that's interesting. I don't know that one. I mean, is that the name of it, Biafra? I mean, obviously, I know the name, the word Biafra, but not the. I didn't know that it was the name of a game. Well, there we go. So I'll just have to keep an eye out on Stupid Joe's channel so that I can uh, find out about it, because uh, that's it's funny because that's something that will get a game to my table is. If it's a game on a topic or a little chunk of history that I have never gamed before, sometimes that's enough to make me go, okay, I got to play this, because for me, generally the game is the impetus to then read a history book, rather than read the history book and then play a game. I kind of go in that direction. So it is the name of the game. That's great. Oh, I I, I hear you, David. Um, I keep the nostalgia games as well, and not only that, I've I sold a bunch of my game collection in about 1990. I was moving or something, so I sold some of those like early games. I didn't sell all of them, but about half of them that I had at the time, and I've rebought a bunch of those, and I've also bought a whack of ones that I never had the first time around, and went, I always wanted to play this game, so uh, I buy it. And the thing that seems to happen to me though is, as soon as I find one of those old Avalon Hill games that I passed over, say Caesar de Liege is an example. I buy it. 6 months later, somebody says, "Oh, we're coming out with a new new deluxe version of that." So that's I don't know. I guess I'm happy to have the original version, but it always feels like, oh, why didn't I just wait 6 more months? Who knows? Yeah, James, I think you're not the only one about that hangs on to their SL stuff, even though they'll never play it again. They've totally moved on to ASL, but they just hang on to that stuff because it's I don't know, it's part of their youth or something like that. Yeah, Yes, Josh, I was the same. I was the same way. It was moving a couple times when I was young and single, but I was still like hauling like too many games around with me, and that led me to do a purge that I since regretted. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I totally agree with this. Learning about conflicts other than the usual suspects, like uh, sure, I like lots of the usual suspects too, but when I get a game on something that I like totally knew nothing about, or I knew about, but there's that level of like, yeah, I think I know about that, and then you actually look into it, and you go, oh Jesus, this isn't anything like what I thought it was. That's that's where like that's where games take me all the time. That's part of what I live for in this hobby is uh, well, history. Like we wouldn't be in this hobby if it wasn't for the history, right? We're all history fans, or we'd be off playing. Uh, I don't know. We'd all be playing fantasy games or sci-fi games or something else. Not that we don't, but we certainly wouldn't be playing history games if history wasn't part of the appeal. That's for sure. Good for you. Uh, I sort of feel that way. I could use an update on my Tobruk box. It's pretty ratty. But the thing is like I don't know that I'll ever play Tobruk again. As much as I loved it, totally loved it back in the day. But it is beat all to hell, no doubt about it. Um, but that's funny. How often have you bought a game again after purging it? Because I think this is another reason that games stay on the unplayed shelf is sometimes you go, oh, I should sell that. Oh, but if I sell it, what if I then decide I was wrong and I buy it again? And you know, it's kind of goofy, but I have rebought uh, at least one game or more for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I bought a few, and not just those old ones that I sold off back in the day. There's been games that I I bought and sold, and then found a friend who was really into it, and so I bought it again. Absolutely. Uh, I think uh, I think a lot of people had a lot of fun with One Page Bulge. Uh, I seem to remember thinking that we were going to see a lot of like one page this and one page that, and in a way we did. I think we saw a bunch of them sort of like unpublished, but like if you were on um, the early version of the internet and whatever, there was there was all kinds of people making homebrew one page this and one page that for sure. Yeah, there you go. Bought to broke twice. Well, and you still play it, Bob? I mean, I've still got my copy, but like I said, I'm not playing it. But who knows? Yeah, I yeah I think that's a pretty good analogy. Yeah, it's not you, it's me, and then you realize, oh no, yeah, it is me. I made a mistake. Absolutely. That's a really good example, James. I I didn't get rid of my original Avalon Hill copy, but I had a box that I left in the garage for a month, stupidly, and my copy was in there, and it got mold and mildew. I lost my original AH that way, like way back in about 1992 or 93. So I was so happy to get the Avalon, or so happy to get the fifth edition, the GMT one. It's a fantastic edition, and I was just so surprised that it got, well, I don't know if it was dropped by GMT or pulled by um, the John. I can't remember his last name. It's at the top of my mind, but yeah, it's sold out right away. I remember I did a video that was sort of like, here's what's in the new fifth edition Russian campaign. I went through like everything that was in it, and it was like like I wasn't much of a YouTuber at that point. That video was just like on fire because like people are so into that particular version. It was so, to my mind, it was so clearly more interesting and better than the Compass remake that had come out. I don't know, 6 months or a year before. So I don't know. I'm sad to see it off of GMT's catalog, and I hope it ends up Concept Games or whatever he calls his little imprint. I hope it ends up somewhere else. There we go. Yep. See, it's these stories that happen. We rebuy these games, and it makes us not want to sell them, right? That's great to hear. That's great to hear, Bob. I'm 62 as well, so we're on the same wavelength. And Zill is a great guy. I can see why you watch his stuff. I hung out with him down in San Diego, and we had a great time. And I did a video with him for his channel. He's going to come over and do a video with me on my channel as well, because we get along like house on fire, and we have a couple of things up our sleeve. It's just time, right? Time. That's so much more. The older you get, the less time you realize you have, and I seem to be going faster the older I get, not slower. Yeah, we're the generation that was buying games in the mid '70s, and that bright run of Avalon Hill, SPI, and GDW. All those games were look at that, 61, 63, 65. Like, yeah, we're a cohort. We're definitely a cohort, and I'm glad there's so many of you. I'm glad that we're all still in this hobby. I'm glad that we're all still doing it together, because I don't know if I could. I love it when I get to play a younger person. Don't get me wrong, but if I walked into a gaming club or a convention and I was the only graybeard there, I don't know how fun that would be. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could do it, but anyway, what I'm saying is, I like to see a few other receding hairlines, gray whiskers, gray hairs. It makes me feel like I'm with my people. Well, hey, CC, you're still awake. I bet you're in the east, so it's like pushing 11 out there or something, right? It's like a lot of these guys are in Pacific, so it's only like 7 or 7:45 for them. I'm mountain, so I'm in between. There we go. Good to see you here tonight, Michael, and thank you for being a patron of my channel. I totally appreciate it. In fact, I think you might have been the very first person who ever signed up to be a patron of Pushing Cardboard. So hats off to Michael Sunboard. Thank you. Yeah, John, you're only 57, but don't take it the wrong way, but you look like it could be 60. I've met you. I can see why somebody would, when you're out of work and you got a game that's selling for over $100 that you maybe paid 30 for, that it sounds like a good idea to sell it. I get it. It's funny you mentioned SPI Sniper. I I thought I had that game, and then I looked it up and went, "No, I never had that game. I was thinking of it wasn't that game at all. I was just mixing up box covers. I never had a sniper." Uh, and once I looked at the box cover and saw the game that I had, it was like the box covers weren't even the same. I don't know what I was thinking. So maybe this whole getting older thing is also like it's got some downsides. Right? It was different. Yeah, Malta besieged. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I was pretty sure that that was the game you were talking about. I, uh, there's there's a, there's one that I sold a couple years ago that I've thought of rebuying, and the only thing that's kept me from rebuying it is that I I sort of I don't want to do that thing where I rebuy it again. But I sold well, maybe I won't rebuy it, but let's see. Um, Maneuver, the game, the GMT game. It's on it's almost on like a chessboard. It's like little squares. It's kind of an abstract game. I didn't like it because there was it didn't seem like all the different sides were balanced, but I kind of really did like the gameplay. So but anyway, I sold it and then went. Hmm, maybe that was a mistake. Who knows? I'm the same way, Michael, with old Avalon Hill catalogs. I love it when I get buy an old Avalon Hill game and it's got a catalog in it, or even I open up one that I haven't opened up in a long time, and you know, you look at the 1982 catalog and go, oh yeah, I remember when that was the new game, and how much I couldn't buy them all, but I got that one and I got that one. I really wanted that one, and then back in those days too, I was big fan of Avalon Hill's sports games. Their statistical sports games, the Status Pro Baseball and the well, not so much football strategy and baseball strategy, although I did have those the Status Pro ones. Any of those kind of games, or Stratomatic, any of the games that were like replay league type games. Man, I went crazy for all those back in the day for sure. Well, that's it's funny you say that. The thing about them send your questions in via the mail, but they're like like that was it, right? It was like I was a diehard subscriber to the General, the magazine, and like um, that little at the back, the little thing that I can't remember what they called it, the answer box or whatever. That was the only place to get errata back in the day. It's like we're so spoiled today to get every little tiny piece of errata uh, cleared up within 10 days of a game being released. Back in the day, it took months and months, and sort of like, and then that was it. You got cleaned up to a certain point, and unless the game was a huge hit and was going to be republished or reprinted, that was it. You never got any more. You just had to house rule anything that didn't make sense at a certain point. Oh, that's great. I played about 10 years in a online baseball replay league that used the game. What was it called? Diamond Mine Baseball. It was fantastic. Played about 10 seasons of that, and played about in two different leagues. Played 15 or 20 seasons of face-off hockey in replay leagues, and totally loved it. The more detailed and complicated, the better. And I locally here, I have not a rotisserie baseball league, but a rotisserie hockey league that I've run for. Like we got to be pushed. We didn't keep track, but we're pretty sure it's got to be almost 30 years now. Same. We've had guys come and go, but there's a core of us that have been playing in this rotisserie hockey league for all these years. So pretty great. Yeah. Yeah. Strato's great. Stratomatic hockey. Totally love that game. I played more. I played Strato hockey for years. Then I got into face-off hockey. I don't know something. I got into my head that it was more realistic. But then I went back and played more Strato because I found Strato actually to be more fun, even if it was uh, not, you didn't get as many players and all that kind of thing. But I loved it, totally love it. Well, 73. If that was that a baseball league, uh, John, if that was 73, that sounds like, maybe like Vida Blue and the Oakland A's were like fantastic, right? If it was, yeah, I, I wasn't, I had Sports Illustrated Baseball. I wasn't a giant fan of it, but back then I could not buy it. There weren't that many sports games, and so for quite a few years, I just like bought every one I saw. I probably had three or four different uh, golf replay games. I had a tennis replay game. Uh, all kinds of that stuff. Yeah, Dynasty League Baseball was a great game. Yeah, for sure. Really nice. There was, I mean, I had a ton of basketball games as well. I don't know how much they really resemble real basketball, but they gave real results. For my money, like as much as hockey's my favorite sport, I think the baseball games though are the best tabletop games. There's something about how baseball's kind of a slow, episodic thing. There's no flow like a hockey game or a basketball game, right? So it just sort of suits it, right? Totally love it. And I also played a ton of U.S. football games. Absolutely, ton of those. And for any other Canucks that are around, there was one CFL replay game that came out. I don't know, about 83 or 84. It only lasted 2 or 3 seasons, but it was it was fun. It was a good game. It was different from any of the American ones for sure. Yeah, yeah. Baseball is a perfect tabletop game. Um, Hockey is a video game. It's a great video game, but the video hockey games I played were like video versions of tabletop games. Basically, they're not There's no joysticks involved. Still it's things like, well, actually still have one on Steam. East Side Hockey Manager, right? It's like drafting and running a team, all that kind of stuff. That March Madness game was the same. It was based on the same engine as a. There was also a professional, an NBA version uh, of that game using the same engine as March Madness for sure. Uh, oh, that's great. That's fantastic to know. That's great to know. It's funny because I hardly follow the CFL anymore. They lost my interest somewhere along the way. But as a kid, man, I was like just such a diehard Stampeders fan. I bled red, no doubt about it. Yeah. Well, that's great, fantastic. Yeah, that particular Sega 94 is like a legendary a legendary video game, no doubt about it. Like for its fight animation, if nothing else. Yeah, um, I played some NFL games that are like not the action type, that are again like the text type stuff, but um, you play them remote. You play them. They're computer games. You play them remotely. Like we hook up. I send you my IP address, that sort of thing, and that's really fun. I found football to be a great played live that way, just because of that offense, defense, pick and plays thing works really great. Even though I didn't watch as much basketball as the other sports, I still had my favorite teams, and I still played. I still bought every basketball game I could get my hands on back in the day. Wasn't There weren't a ton. There was Strato basketball and um, Status Pro basketball, and then of course basketball strategy. But that wasn't a great game. But I was also like a subscriber to All Star Replay from Avalon Hill, uh, which I probably back in the day had every issue of. And that game or that magazine was great about um, just in sort of in the way that uh, C3I is now with like variants and stuff. All Star Replay used to put out like they used to put out March Madness teams. The new season of March Madness teams, or they'd put out. I remember that they did all the NBA players for basketball strategy because basketball strategy wasn't actually. It didn't come with that sort of thing, so it was really cool to be able to play that game that wasn't designed for it, and suddenly you could turn it into a replay game if you wanted to. It was great. Yeah, this company that it was funny. So we're done talking about Shelf of Shame. I guess we're going to finish out the night by talking about sports games. But this company David's talking about, Play with two A's, they've got as I understand it, they've got a few different sports games, right? It's not just that hoops game. They've got like football and basketball as well, or something like that. I think I heard that. I think Steve Carey was telling me about it, which probably makes sense if David Siskin's talking about it because him and Carey are good pals. Right. Yeah. So if you want to check out Play, I'm sure if you just search PLAAY in your browser, and first it'll say, "Did you mistype Play?" But you say no, and then you'll probably find their website, right? Yeah, I should check them out because although all my time is tied up playing war games these days, trying to keep on top of things for the channel. Whenever I need a break, what I turn to is definitely a sports game. Yeah, even like last summer, I went out and bought a couple of Stratomatic full seasons of baseball, just like no, sorry, one Stratomatic and one Status Pro because I love those Status Pro games as well. So it was like, yeah, I just kind of went, I need a break from war games. Let's do some baseball for sure. Bob McAdoo was great. I remember reading an interview with him in good old Sports Illustrated magazine back when there was still such a thing as magazines. Yeah, he was great. Well, this is good. I'm going to check out Play. See if it's. I don't know if they're going to be my thing or not. I've played so many different sports games that I've got kind of specific tastes in what I like. But we'll see. Maybe. Well, that's an interesting idea. History that attracts us to both war games and sports games because I can definitely sit down and play. I can definitely sit down and play any two teams from like 1981 MLB in Strato and be perfectly happy. It does not have to be last year's season or this year's season. I'm totally happy to play historical. I love it. Actually, it's great. I'm a big Dodgers fan, so 81 is a good year to play, even though it was the strike shortened season, but still the Dodgers won and there was Fernando. So yeah, I love playing that old stuff. Okay, well, we're at 2 hours, so I should wrap it up. I want I want to thank everybody who came out tonight, and especially so many of you who are patrons for the podcast, the website, and the channel. It's great to see all of you, and I actually get a chance to talk with some of you. So thanks again. And I have no idea what the next topic will be, but I'll definitely see you all again in a couple weeks, I hope. And Cardboard Commander, just hit me up on Discord, and I'll get that game out. I'm happy to send it along. Yeah, thanks, boys. It's been great. Good night to everybody. Oh.